Next, we move on to the HLOOKUPs. Now, HLOOKUPs are very, very similar to VLOOKUPs, but instead of looking across columns, it looks down rows. So it is really, really, really straightforward, and there is not much extra to think about. I can honestly say in my entire career, I've never needed a HLOOKUP, and I've never used one. However, it is good to know that they're out there, and I'm sure there are certain data sets that will require a HLOOKUP in order to analyze. So, equals HLOOKUP. I'm not going to go into too much detail because we have already covered the specific parts of the criteria with the VLOOKUP. So, first, lookup value. We want it to find the name Ben. So press comma. Next is the table array. So if I go over to the HLOOKUP data, first thing to note is, as with the VLOOKUP, the first row that you select in your table array needs to be the row that contains the data you are trying to look up. In this case, it is the name, and so it is column or row 1. If it was, for example, the car registration that you were trying to look up, your starting row would be row 4. However, it is the name. So, table starts at row 1, and as with the VLOOKUP, I'm just going to select all rows in the range. I'm going to press comma to move on to the next part. So the next part is the row index number. Now, I believe it was the age, I actually don't remember, that we were looking up, in which case the age appears on the second row of the table range. So that will be 2. And as with the VLOOKUP, we're going to use 0 for false, which is an exact match. It was not the age at all, it was the city. So the city is in row 3. We selected rows 1 to 8. It is the 3rd row. If, for example, I'm just going to do this very quickly, the data was here, your row range would have been 11 to 18. Your city still would have been row index number 3, okay? So do not take the fact that city falls on row 3 as the reason why the criteria is row 3. So, back on the HLOOKUP tasks, I'm just going to change that from 2 to 3 so that it gives us the city. As before, we can just copy the formula and paste it down, but we run into issues. Because it is rows that we are looking up and not columns, when we copy the formula down, it still moves the row range down. We had the same with the VLOOKUP in that if we did not lock the cells, the rows kept moving down. So really simple. Back in here, using F4, it locks both the rows. We can just copy and paste it down. Now we're getting an error for Jason. If I look on HLOOKUP data, we do not find the name Jason, which is why we're receiving an error. Now, the next formula, or the next query in the formula list is to give us the result of not found when we get an error. So that is replacing this NA for Jason with the words not found. So again, being lazy, no need to keep retyping formulas. I'm just going to paste from above. Paste. We know it is Jason that's got the issue. Okay, great. I know that I need to incorporate an if error in order for it to give me the not found. So, starting at the front of the formula, I'm just going to type in if error and open the bracket. We then move on to the value part of the if error formula. So the value is whatever the result is that's returned by this part of the formula. And if the value happens to be an error, which it is for Jason's name, I want it to say not found. So inside of parentheses, I need to type in not found. Enter. Now, because we have a nested formula and I didn't type the closing bracket, it's telling me there's an error. Usually when Excel says that it tries to correct something to something else, it will tell you, do you want to accept the correction? And you just say yes. If you then copy that and paste it down, you will see for the item that it couldn't find, it says not found. The next part of the question is going over the exact same process as we did for the VLOOKUP with the $1,000 bonus, except it's using HLOOKUP. So really simple. Let's just type the entire formula out. Equals HLOOKUP, looking up the value. So we're looking up Ben's name. We're looking it up in this row table range. We're using F4 to lock that range because as we copy the formula down, these rows will also move down until and immediately it will stop working because it will not find the name in the first row. And so that will be an immediate error. Next, we want it to say the number of children. So 1, 2, 3, 4, row 5. So we're going to type in 5. And again, it's row 5 from the data that we're looking up. And then press comma, 0 for false, match. Now, once it finds the number of dependents, we need it to times that number of dependents by 1,000 to give us the amount of bonus they're entitled to. Little bit unfair if you ask me to the people without kids, but hey, who am I to complain? So there we go. And now we can test that because Nick seems like he's had a very busy life. He's got a lot of kids by the looks of it. So let's just check that. And indeed, Nick has 6 kids. Very busy man. So final part of the equation, and we will just use a slightly different method of selecting our table range for this one. So we're going to go equals HLOOKUP. We're looking up the name. And now we're going to look it up in this row range. Now we're going to use F4 to lock that. I think it was the age we asked for, so we know it's just going to be row 2. And then we want it to find an exact match, so false, which is 0. We're going to close the bracket and press enter. It was not the age, it was the eye color. And so the eye color is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're actually going to replace the number 2 here with number 6. We're going to copy that down. And so we have our results. And so that is how you use a HLOOKUP.